Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I might have crossed paths with some of you in the past. I've been teaching I-Core ever since I left Hopkins. Back at Hopkins, I still teach it at Penn, still teach it at NSF, all over the place. So if we haven't met before, I look forward to hopefully having you in Hopkins I-Core course one of these days. So today, I'll start with a little bit of background of me, a little outdated picture, different hair color, different style, but as you can see, I spent time at Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures as Director of Ventures, had a very similar role at University of Maryland, Baltimore. As Chuck mentioned, I worked with him with the Maryland Venture Fund when I was at Commerce, and most recently I was back with the Venture Fund full 15 years after leaving it as part of TEDCO. So I'm currently the advisor to TEDCO on diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as investments. We hired a new chief innovation officer. I was interim there for about 16 months, and I'm happy to be back in a different role, but continuing my I-Core teaching. So I'm a mom of twin girls. I love to do outdoor stuff, but I started my career way back in San Diego in the medical device world with a couple of venture-backed startups before moving to Baltimore 21 years ago. And I am trained as a biomedical and electrical engineer, did my undergrad at Duke and my master's at UC San Diego. So today we're going to be talking about customers, which seems pretty obvious what a customer is, but we'll get a little bit more detailed as we go forward. But we're also going to talk about value propositions. And I'm starting with this right up front because this is, I think, oftentimes hard for technologists to really think about the value or as the benefit or the outcome that the customer gets from using your product. It has nothing to do with the technical features. It's what is your product allowing your customer to do that they can't do today? That is the value proposition. As a very basic example, think about the drill bit. People don't want a 1/4-inch drill. They want a 1/4-inch hole. The value proposition is getting that hole, and it's the drill bit that delivers that hole. But there could be other things that could also deliver that 1/4-inch hole. So products and features are not value propositions. So we're going to get a little bit more into this. And you can think about value propositions in terms of what is the job that your customer's trying to do. And there are multiple buckets of jobs. There are functional jobs, like actually getting the hole drilled. There's emotional jobs that you can help with, making them feel confident and getting that hole done right the first time. And then there's also social aspects of many jobs. So, you know, being able to be the best hole driller out there is the social impact or the social value that your product could help deliver to a customer. So in the virtual world, we try to get things a little interactive. So we're going to play a little game here, and you can unmute yourself and shout out the answer as you see the clues. So the first one, guess the product from the job. The functional job is I want to quickly share articles or thoughts. The emotional is I want to feel included and be in the know. Social is I want to grow my professional and social network. What product might deliver that value?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn's a good guess. Anybody else? Could be Twitter as well, but LinkedIn is a pretty good guess. So let's try again. The job is to kill bacteria that causes bad breath, feel confident that I don't have bad breath, and I want to have close conversations with my significant other. What product might that be?
Mouthwash.
There we go. One more. I want to efficiently control the temperature in my home. I want to be more energy cost effective. And I want to wow my friends with that cool control thermostat. Somebody said Nest, right? So really good examples of, we're not talking about technology in any of them. We're just talking about the job that the product allows our customer to do. So now thinking about yourself, what job would your customer hire your solution to do? Really, again, very basic way of thinking about it is, what's the verb, the object, and the context that your customer does that job in? Are there certain situations that your customer struggles more than others? So again, another really simple job here for the these earbuds is listen to music while on the go. That's the verb, the object, and the context. On the go is the context. But guess what? People have always been trying to listen to music while on the go. So jobs persist, but we say products evolve over time. All right, so one more direct to consumer example, Lyft. Anybody, how would you describe the job that Lyft does for its customers? Again, anybody want to, you can put your answers in chat or shout it out. Really basic.
Personal driver.
Yeah, go ahead.
I said personal driver almost anywhere.
Yeah, get you from point A to point B, right? That's a very simple description. Nobody talks about the app and the digital features of the app, which is really the product. What they talk about is Lyft allows me to get from point A to point B better than the old ways of getting from point A to point B. These are some of the other ways you can get from point A to point B. But how do you think Lyft tries to differentiate itself? Just by using this picture here. This is one of their ads. What message, what value are they trying to show off to their customers? How do they differentiate themselves? I'm going to jump in here and say, you look at this car and you're like, oh, wow, that's a nice, clean, relatively reliable looking car. If I'm a female passenger, maybe I feel safer with a female driver versus getting in a car with a total stranger, the old days with a taxi. So those are some of the benefits, the outcome that they're trying to convince their customers that they provide by using the Lyft platform. So here are some additional examples of ways to make sure you're talking about value propositions rather than features or technical aspects of your product. If you're talking about the reduction in steps or the reduction in cost or complexity that you're allowing your customer to have by using your product, that might be a value proposition. It might be providing that customer with increased efficiency or convenience, improvements in performance, allowing them to make more money, save 20% time, eliminate specific costs. Those are all potential value propositions. Basically, value propositions are a way of summarizing how your product gets rid of pains that your customer is dealing with or provides gains that your customer would get from using your thing. So we've used a lot of direct-to-consumer examples, and I know you're all in biomedical engineering, Hopkins, and so most of you are probably, if you're working on an idea, are dealing with much more complex customer and stakeholder ecosystems. It's not just as simple as convincing an individual that there's value here. So what does that mean? It means that you have a lot of people to talk to. There are a lot of different types of customers within your specific customer segment. And many of you might have multiple customer segments that you need to explore. So you might have a technology that has multiple applications, and you have to think of each of those applications as potentially different customer segments. So you really start with who needs it and why. So here's a medical device example that we like to use. So here I've listed actually 3 different customer segments. And really, these are giant customer segments. When I talk about hospitals, there are all different types of hospitals. There are academic medical centers, there are like regional medical hospitals, there are rural hospitals, and they all could be considered very different customer segments because they oftentimes adopt products in different ways. But for the sake of oversimplifying today, we're just going to talk about the hospital as one customer segment. So within the hospital, if you're trying to sell, this is a device that treats dry eye. And it would be used in let's say, an academic medical center by an eye surgeon. So within the hospital customer segment, you're going to have multiple customer types. You might have the eye center chair, the director. That's probably the person who might be making the decision about whether or not to shell out money from their very limited budget to adopt a new piece of technology. And some of the things that they really care about is how might this device increase the center revenue, because they're getting pressure from their boss to bring in more revenue year over year. So that is one of the primary drivers that they're looking for any new device to help deliver to the center. Now, the hospital CFO might be most concerned about only adopting new products that increase insurance and collections. They want to make sure that any new device will be covered, any procedures done using that device would be fully covered or mostly covered through insurance. Now, the eye surgeon, what do they care about mostly about? They might value a new system like this that would allow them to get home on time for once. It might allow them to do more procedures in the same amount of time and make their boss happy, which is the eye center director who's telling them they need to make more money. And it might also, they might be interested because it's going to enhance their professional reputation and help bring in new customers, new patients to their clinic, which again might lead to making them look better in their boss's eyes because they're, again, bringing in more revenue to the center. And the patient in this case, what might they value? This device might allow the patient to recover in half the time versus the normal way of treating dry eye. And they're going to get 95% expected correction on the first time having the procedure done. It's going to allow them to get back to work the next day. So these are just examples of how different customer types within a specific customer segment value different things. And it's your job via customer discovery, meaning going out and talking to your customers to understand what's really important to them and what motivates them to make purchase decisions or evaluate new technologies. You really have to understand what is the job that they're trying to do, what is most important, and are you going after a top of mind job? So one way to think about this, we're not going to do it here in some of the iCore classes, we actually have the teams start listing for a specific customer within your customer segment, what are the pains based on conversations you're having with them? What are the pains that they're currently dealing with? And what are the gains? Or sometimes it's the and, sometimes it's or. What are the gains they're hoping to gain from using your thing? And make some of those assumptions and go test them with interviews. So again, going back to the value propositions, you know that you're probably talking about actual value propositions rather than features if you're using some of these words like minimize, reduce, remove, maximize, increase, or add. So in this case, for this dry eye surgical tool, obviously the requirement is that any new medical device is going to have to get FDA approval. So that's the assumption of the basic requirements. Hopkins wouldn't consider adopting a new device unless it's already been proven safe and effective and gotten the seal of approval from the FDA. But what they're hoping to get is these type of gains and getting rid of some of the pains listed here. So here are some common mistakes that we see teams make when coming up with value propositions. As I mentioned earlier, it's really easy. We all do it. You want to describe, you want to talk about your technology in terms of the features and the product rather than the value. But we really want you to try to change your mindset and start thinking about the value it delivers to the customer, that outcome that they get from using your product. We encourage you to try to get specific about the type of value that your product can deliver. Better, faster, cheaper isn't very specific. We want you to be able to quantify how much better or how much faster, 20% faster, hours faster, whatever it is, how much or 50% cost savings. That is specific and it doesn't end in that ER. I'm not going to read through it. You can read through the obviously mistaking technical improvement for value, not understanding how the customers judge performance. This is really important. And one of the questions you should be asking your customers is, how do they compare products addressing this problem? If they were to, look at a new product to address the problem that they're working with, what metrics would they be looking to measure? This is really important. If you can get this information earlier in your product development cycle, it really helps you identify what are those metrics that we're going to have to meet and how much better are we going to have to be than the existing solutions. We also encourage you when doing customer discovery to talk to people who don't know you, who don't have a reputation to protect with you, because oftentimes they will say, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And it's because they're trying to be nice to you. If you go talk to people who don't know you, they're going to more likely be willing to give you their true beliefs about the problem that you're working on. And it's up to you to figure out, is this a must-have thing that they're trying to get solved, or is it a nice to have? You want to identify a customer segment who sees the problem that you're working on as something that must be solved for them very soon. That means that they are actively looking for solutions to get this problem addressed. And you also need to make sure there are enough customers who care. And because if you don't have enough of those customers, it's really going to be hard to build that scalable, repeatable business opportunity. So I'm going to give you one more. This is another direct-to-consumer example, but it's kind of fun. So has anybody seen the Juicero before or read about it? All right, so this is it was a juice machine, and hopefully there might be some people who like to juice in the room, that raised a bunch of funding a number of years ago. And this is how they described it to their investors, that the juice machine used these proprietary packs of fruits and veggies. It was an Internet of Things kitchen appliance, had these QR codes on the packets so the customer could verify that they hadn't expired. And most importantly, this juice press had enough force that it could lift 2 Teslas. So this was about 6 years ago. And so there were a lot of buzzwords here. And this company was pretty successful in raising a ton of money. But I also thought it was a pretty good example because they did a great job of telling the value to the customer.
Making juice is easy. Start by taking a stroll down to the neighborhood farmer's market. Buy about $50 worth of organic fruits and vegetables. Don't forget to bring a tote bag.
Do you sell tote bags?
No, we'll just carry it. Did you forget your tote?
Wash your fruits and vegetables. Cut them, chop them, wash them again, peel them.
I think this peeler's broken.
Dig your juicer out from the back of your cupboard, realize there's still a part missing, find it. Figure out how to put it all together, then juice. And enjoy. Oh, but did you think you were done? Because you're not. Now you've made a big old mess that you have to clean up, the machine, the countertop, pretty much your whole kitchen.
Can't get those beets out of anything.
All right, so making juice isn't easy at all. It's actually a huge pain. But what if it didn't have to be?
What is this?
It's a Juicero. I'm sorry, I don't know what that word means. What's
It's a new word.
juicero?
Okay, define it for me.
Juicero, the best juice ever. What comes out of the juicero is so fresh that it shouldn't even be called juice. It should just be called, I don't know, squashed produce, because that's what it is.
Sorry.
Our founder, Doug, is straight up made of juice.
Literally, there's juice in my veins.
Doug and the Juicero team have taken care of everything. Not just the washing, the peeling, and the chopping, but the growing, the harvesting, the washing, the refrigerated transport, the inspecting. Did we mention the washing? The packaging. And finally, delivering to your house. And we haven't even gotten to the most genius part yet. There's nothing to clean. No mess whatsoever. It's so easy that it makes the old way of juicing seem, well, old.
Why did I do all that other stuff?
Who cares? That's our past life. This is our new life.
Juicero. The easiest, freshest, most delicious way to get juice.
All right. Unmute yourself for a second. Anybody want to tell me what the value the Juicero delivered to their customers?
Well, I think, my name's Shinjini, I'm a radiology resident. I think kind of like going back to the examples that you said, I think it kind of adds value in all those areas. So reduction in steps and risks, it's more efficient. And then there's elimination of all of those like steps and those costs of like buying all those other products and things like that along the way. And then they're saying that it's squashed produce. It's not just juice. So they're kind of alluding to the fact that like it might even be better than whatever you could, make at home with your old juicer.
Right. So great example, right? I thought they did an excellent job of telling you, the consumer, that what we do best is we make juicing easy. Juicing the old way is messy, it's time consuming. And what they're providing you is fresh juice with the push of a button and no cleanup. So they identified the problems, which is one of the biggest ones they were highlighting is, gosh, you have to wash all those vegetables, and that takes a lot of time and steps. And then it's messy with the cleanup, all the different parts. And here, this device provides you with fresh pressed juice with no prepping and no cleanup. So, but thinking back to the slides that they had presented, where they talked about the force of the press and the QR code, and does any of that speak to providing fresh pressed juice at home with no cleanup or mess? It doesn't, right? That's the technical features which don't inform the consumer of what they're getting from using the product. So guess what happens? Let's see. So this company ended up being a total disaster. After they launched their product, 16 months later, they were out of business. To make matters worse, they had raised $120 million from venture capitalists, and some of the biggest ones in Silicon Valley, and it was a total disaster. And so some of the argument went that this company failed because they were developing a product that, for a group of customers, there just weren't enough customers who had this burning need to get fresh juice with the press of a button at the price tag that they had come up with. And others had argued that they had focused too much on the quality of the juice and not on the value proposition to the customer. The reality is they raised a ton of money and got really caught up in over-engineering this device to deliver what they thought was really important, this super high quality juice. But at the end, they found out that there really weren't enough customers who cared that much about the super high quality of the juice, because that required that much higher price point. And it required a huge commitment of purchasing all these packs that had to be delivered to your door. It was a subscription service. It was just, it was out of reach for the average consumer. So it was a failure on multiple levels, but I like it because it shows that go and over-engineer your product unless you know exactly what your customers' needs are. And in this case, it looked like they did. They put together this great video, but they made many classic examples, some of the same mistakes that we've seen other companies make. They spent a lot of money developing something that people really didn't want at the price point. Because at the end of the day, as in some of the other examples, their customers always have choices. There are other ways to get the same product at the end of the day. And what these folks might have found out is that some people like to go to the farmer's market and get those fresh vegetables and do it themselves because they like to have that control over which products go into their juices. And there just weren't enough of the people who cared about the super high quality juice at that price point. And they were either willing to deal with the mess and clean up themselves or go to the grocery store to a juice bar to get their juices. So the takeaway here is these are the top 10 startup mistakes, reasons companies fail. Number one is building something that nobody wants. We would say, or building something that not enough people want. So do your homework, understand what drives your customer, and then develop a product that meets those customer needs. And that includes understanding their price sensitivity and their buying habits. To spend that much money on a juicer, you need to be targeting people that juice, more than 3 times a week, and understanding their current spend on juicing today. That might help predict whether customers would adopt your product. So the takeaway is we don't want you to become the next Juicero. So start with doing some customer discovery, understand what really motivates them, what their jobs are, and you can do that by getting out there and speaking with them. So I will stop there, and I'd really like to open it up for Q&A.